Ford built cars that rewrote what was possible, then buried every single one. A two-wheeled car that balanced itself with gyroscopes. A bubble-roofed spaceship that never touched a road. A mid-engine Mustang that engineers drove and loved until management made it disappear. These were not sketches. Every car on this list was real, fully built and tested, and nobody found out until now. Here are 8 of them, 4 cars in, and every one of them was buried. The next 4 pushed even further, an Italian-styled exotic with doors that opened straight up, built on a city car platform. A pure open-top roadster that Ford canceled before a single customer ever saw it. A supercar with 3 fully built and road-tested prototypes that never reached production. And a Cobra revival with the performance numbers of a finished car that never got production approval. Keep watching. In 1955, Ford rolled out a car that looked like it had landed from another planet. The Mystere was the brainchild of Bill Boyer and his team at Ford's Advanced Styling Studio in Dearborn. What they built wasn't just a car. It was a fiberglass sculpture with a bubble canopy, a sliding steering rail, and seats that swiveled like something out of a sci-fi movie. The Mystere made its first public appearance at the Detroit Auto Show that January, drawing crowds with its glass dome roof and the promise of a turbine engine under the rear deck. But under that wild skin, the Mystere was never meant to move. It was a static display, no engine, no drivetrain, just a shell designed to tease the future. Ford's management kept it close, parading it at the 1956 Chicago Extravaganza and keeping the design cues secret until the 1957 Fairlane 500 hit showrooms. There were whispers of a running version, but the reality was less glamorous. No test runs, no road footage, just a showpiece that vanished into private hands. The only surviving model ended up in a private collection decades later, after skipping the flames that would consume so many of Ford's dreams. By the early 1960s, the company's appetite for spectacle hadn't faded, it just got riskier. Enter the Gyron, a two-wheeled car that balanced itself using high-speed gyroscopes, dreamed up by Alex Tremolis, the same mind behind the Tucker 48. Imagine a car that looked like a land speed record rocket, perched on a single wheel at the front and one at the back, with a pair of spinning gyros hidden deep inside to keep it upright. The Gyron's cockpit was pure Jetsons, ergonomic seats, a car phone, even an infrared navigation system. But despite its futuristic look, the Gyron was never more than a fiberglass model with a clever balancing act. There was no public road test, no footage of it gliding down Michigan Avenue, just a static mock-up that wowed crowds at the 1961 Detroit Motor Show. The prototype was stored at the Ford Rotunda, but in November 1962, a fire ripped through the building, destroying the Gyron and much of Ford's concept car history in one night. What survived was only a studio model, later auctioned off to a private collector. The rest lost to smoke and memory. 2 cars, both built to shock and inspire, both gone before they could ever prove themselves on the road. Ford's most radical visions started as showstoppers, but when the lights went out, even the most spectacular ideas could vanish without a trace. By the late 1960s, Ford's concept cars weren't just for show anymore. They were starting to move under their own power. The Mach 2 was supposed to be the proof. Gene Bourdonnais, Ford's design chief, wanted to build an American answer to Europe's mid-engine exotics. So in 1967, Ford's car craft Skunk Works put together a running prototype, a two-seater coupe with a 289 cubic inch V8 mounted right behind the seats, all tucked under a roofline just 47 inches high. It looked like a Le Mans racer that somehow escaped from the track. The Mach 2 had working mechanicals, a functional drivetrain, and a layout that could have rewritten the rules for American muscle. But the dream barely made it out of the workshop. Internal memos from Dearborn spelled out the problem in black and white. Tooling up for a mid-engine car would cost at least $100 million, an eye-watering sum for a company built on high-volume sedans. The Mach 2 was quietly shelved, and the only prototype disappeared. Not scrapped, not burned, just buried in the files and forgotten, while Ford doubled down on more familiar territory. 15 years later, Ford's Italian outpost tried to break through the same wall, but from a completely different angle. In 1982, at the Turin Motor Show, the Brezza rolled onto the stand, a compact mid-engine sports hatchback designed by Ghia Marilena Corvache. Corvache was not just the first woman to lead a Ford concept project, she brought a fresh sensibility to the whole idea of what a Ford could be. The Brezza packed a 1.6-liter CVH engine from the Escort Mark III, mounted behind the seats with crisp lines and a glassy wedge-shaped profile that looked like nothing else in the Ford lineup. The show catalog spelled it out: Ford Brezza, a compact mid-engine sports hatch designed by Ghia. The press buzzed about the design, and for a moment it looked like Ford might actually build it. But back in Dearborn, another internal memo landed on the wrong desk. The projected tooling bill came in at $100 million, and the verdict was swift: too expensive, too risky, and too different for the mainstream. The Brezza was dead before it left the show floor, and Corvace's breakthrough vanished into the archives, leaving only a few photos and a ripple of influence that would echo in later Ford designs. Ghia's Turin studio, 1976. The Corrida rolled out onto the show floor like something from a sci-fi chase scene, with a sharp wedge profile, two-segment gull-wing doors powered by a pneumatic pump, and hidden headlamps that vanished behind a brushed aluminum lip. The doors didn't just swing up, they split in two, with the upper panel lifting skyward and the lower pivoting out, making an entrance that stopped traffic in its tracks. Inside, a modular dashboard could be swapped for left or right-hand drive, hinting at ambitions far beyond Italy. For a moment, it looked like Ford had found its answer to the Lancia Stratos. But back in Dearborn, the mood was less enthusiastic. A feasibility memo dated March 1977 landed with a thud. Projected tooling and retooling costs would top $112 million, and the profit margin didn't clear the company's own bar. The verdict was swift and final. The Corrida, despite its engineering fireworks and press buzz, was declared too expensive, too risky, and too different for the accountants to stomach. Fast forward to Geneva, 1984. The Barchetta, another Ghia creation, stole the spotlight as an open-top roadster built on the humble Fiesta XR2 platform. Underneath the sunburst orange fiberglass, it was all Fiesta, a 1.6-liter CVH, 4-cylinder rear-wheel drive, 4-speed manual, only now with a roll bar and curves that turned a commuter car into a showstopper. The European press lost their minds. French magazines called it a dreamlike convertible that makes you forget it's a Ford, while German headlines gushed about Ford's Italian love affair. The public wanted it, the reviews were glowing, but Dearborn's answer was a familiar one: no. The Barchetta was cancelled before it could ever hit the road, a victim of the same cost-cutting logic that doomed the Corrida. Two crowd pleasers, two dead ends, proof that even when the world is ready, the bean counters can still slam the brakes. In 1985, Ford and Italdesign pushed the Maya from concept to reality. Giorgetto Giugiaro's team built 3 fully functional prototypes, each powered by a 3-liter Yamaha V6, producing 250 horsepower. These were not garage queens. They logged over 12,000 kilometers across Italy and the French Riviera, with engineers recording every high-speed run and mountain climb. The plan was bold: a modular assembly line adapted from escort production, capable of turning out 50 Mayas a day. Magazine features from the era captured the Maya's gull-wing doors slicing through alpine air, headlights cutting the dusk, test drivers pushing the car to its limits. Every detail from the chassis to the engine was tested and documented. Yet, as the numbers added up, so did the doubts. The Maya disappeared, leaving only a handful of prototypes and a locked archive of test logs. Across the Atlantic, Chausson's Cobra ME 230 offered its own promise. Built in France and unveiled at the 1986 Los Angeles Expo, it packed a 2.5-liter turbo engine and hit 0 to 60 in 6 seconds. The chassis was tuned for speed, the design ready to challenge Lotus and Porsche. Public proof came in a flash: a 1988 NBC The Highwayman episode where the Cobra ME 230 roared down a desert highway, nameplate clear in the opening chase. That brief footage is all that remains, a glimpse of a supercar world Ford nearly changed before both projects were quietly shelved. Even now, some of Ford's boldest creations sit locked away, their potential never realized. As car companies chase ever safer bets, true risk-taking hides in the archives. The next revolution might be waiting in a forgotten prototype. Would you have put any of these on the road? Let me know below.